to 20%. I get it, yes, it's double, but it's not like it's thousands of dollars.
No, it's more about,
Sitting on the fucking ass, just
are you ready? You ready, Carrie?
I'm good.
You were who I was, okay.
Make sure your mic is on.
My mic is on. I will bring it closer. Apologize for the slight delay. I want to call the meeting to order. We are starting with a public hearing. Notice is hereby given that the Town of Winchester Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, May 18th at 6 p.m. in the Winchester Town Hall for the purpose of implementing a permissible firework ordinance. Questions may be addressed to the Winchester Town Hall, Office of Selectmen, and of course, by public presentation. Is there a motion to enter into, into the public hearing?
Make a motion.
And also- Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. We are now in the public hearing. So just for brief review, the Select Board has been reviewing a permissible firework ordinance. The conversation has come up multiple times. Don't we have an ordinance? I thought we did. We have done a lot of due diligence in research, have not found any history of an ordinance being entered into our policies. And also to clarify, we have a firework permit process. So you have to secure a permit to be able to set off the fireworks. And the permit is reviewed by the fire chief and is it by the chief of police as well, or just the
Fire chief.
Just the fire chief.
And the fire police.
And the police, chief, and they sign off on that for, for safety purpose, so that we know that something is going on in case there's a call about it. But the reason for the ordinance being brought forward is an opportunity to, I'm going to use the word regulate a little, that permit situation, in that if people do not have a permit, the town of Winchester could levy a fine against the people who are setting off a firework without a permit. Right now, if a fine were to be given just by the chief of police or from the police department, that fine would be made payable to the state of New Hampshire, and the local ordinance allows us to make that payable to the town of Winchester. So that's just some of the background of the ordinance and why the Select Board was considering it, and now there's an opportunity for public comment. I did ask before the meeting if we had received any emails. I didn't. Carrie mentioned that she did not directly. I don't know if any other member of the board received any public comment or concern about the ordinance.
I did receive some public comment, but the person would like to remain anonymous. But just to summarize the email, they were concerned with the lack of follow through from the
Anytime you speak up here, you need to state your name and address. I don't think we should take comments from people that want to be in office.
Thank you. Go ahead, Nat.
They just wanted to state that the lack of follow through from past boards and not being able to actually institute this was very concerning to them, and they're very concerned about their neighbors and seeing fireworks go off all the time without any sort of curfew. And that was basically it, to summarize it.
Thank you, Nat. And before we did have the shout out from the audience, I share the opinion that if you have a public comment, you should be present, but I respect the fact that somebody did reach out to you personally and didn't want to publicly comment, but that is the purpose of a public hearing. Are there any other comments from the public?
Kevin Zan, is there paper copies of this ordinance that the public can?
You can have mine. I didn't make copies.
That's not a town ordinance, Kevin. That's the proposal.
It's a proposal.
We don't have a town ordinance. That's a proposal.
It's a draft proposal. It's not been approved yet.
Can you turn that mic on, please? Thank you.
I think that if you get a permit, you're actually going through the chain to do it the right way. I don't think you should be penalized, because I believe this says only certain days. We have a noise ordinance curfew, when you can start, when it has to stop. I think as long as on the fireworks permit, it states those times, you can do it on any, whatever night that you choose that you're gonna do it, for a birthday party, whatever, it shouldn't be a special occasion, that the town decides that that's a special occasion. I think things are going fine the way they are right now, other than, I think we need to buckle down on the people that aren't getting a permit. And then if you want to put in this ordinance thing, word it somehow that the town receives the money, I'm cool with that, that's the way it should be. But as far as telling people when they can and can't live their freedom, it's kind of like shutting a bell off at the church between the hours of 10 and 6 because one person can't sleep. Enough's enough.
So I just want to respond to that. The ordinance does not limit any specific date or time. It just states that you need to have a valid permit that's permitted by the town. The only limits it has is that you need to have a permit that notes your specific date. And the only dates that you do not need a permit are New Year's Eve and the Independence Day celebrations. So actually, this ordinance takes out the obligation to have a permit between July 3rd and 5th. So
I disagree with that.
Well, we can
Line-
have that. Oh, go ahead.
The second page, well, yeah, but you're saying, second page on number 5, it says, permissible fireworks shall only be discharged on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday between the hours of 5 p.m. and 10 p.m., except to this are New Year's Eve, exceptions to this are New Year's Eve and Independence Day, and it goes on. So
Thank
there
you,
is a
Teresa.
limit.
I thought that sentence had been taken out.
Yeah, I would agree with, I thought we talked about that
You
in our
guys
last.
discussed it, but you never gave me any direction to take
Okay.
it out.
Okay,
So-
apologies.
I'd like to hear from the chief, the fire chief, because I know he has some concerns, and I'm probably going to go with what he said, from what he said before, but say it again, Barry.
So if that's the case, my concern was the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, restricting it just to those days.
Yeah, I thought that we had taken that out as
Yeah,
well. I
I thought we
apologize for
did
the
as well. We
confusion.
just didn't tell Carrie, but we were in agreement with you, Barry.
Okay, because I understand the whole ordinance, and I agree with that if there is any violations, that the money comes back to the town. Now, did I hear you correctly, that the only exception was I didn't need to get a permit on New Year's Eve and 4th of July?
Well, so, no, that whole number 5, I read incorrectly.
Okay.
So that entire section would come out. We're
Okay, so
The
regardless, they
ordinance-
need to get permits regardless of what
Correct.
holiday it is? Okay.
Correct.
Then I'm fine with that,
So
thank you.
I would like to actually, while we're discussing this, definitely, we did talk about taking out the hours of restrictions. I would like to see possibly a time frame put on that. So maybe between the hours of, 5 and 11.
I think the
or
Does that go in
midnight.
with our noise ordinance?
The application has a
Has that.
time frame, a limit
does?
Yeah.
that
Yep.
the board
Okay.
states.
Okay, I
All the
didn't know
years
that.
I've been doing this, it's always been 11 o'clock.
Yep.
Okay.
Which follows
Always.
our noise
Yeah,
ordinance.
at the latest, 11.
11, correct.
Yep, great,
Which
thank
is
you.
that follows the noise ordinance in town, correct?
I believe so. I'd have to double check that, but there's also decimals and all of that plays a part in that too, so.
When you shoot fireworks, that's kind of tough to meet that, unfortunately, but,
So,
Yeah,
thank you.
yep. I would like that it would state those times also in the ordinance as well, though, even though it is on the permit, because it is an ordinance.
It's not, if you look at the application, we always have said, when somebody comes in with a permit, we'll issue it and we make a motion and we put it on the actual permit, what time that they're allowed to display it from.
Right, so it
I
says,
I understand that, I definitely understand that, but for the sake of an ordinance with fines, it should also state it on the ordinance.
Right, so if we put this ordinance into effect, there would be a bullet point that said, you know, this ordinance follows the permit, which
The permit,
allows
right.
for, you know, your fireworks to go off.
With the-
Between,
which also-
follows the town here, noise ordinance
Correct.
to be done by 11 PM.
Correct.
So it's just drawing in the other ordinances that we already have and
Right.
making sure they're all listed or cross-referenced.
But the enforcement with the permit on this ordinance covers that without having to sit there and specifically say 11 o'clock, because it says if the applicant doesn't follow the application process, they're subject to being fined.
Right, it's an extra check and balance at that point, just to make sure that we're sticking with all of the ordinances that we currently have across the board. So we have the noise ordinance, and we have now the fireworks ordinance, which
the noise
also
or-
goes along with the
Well, the
permit.
noise ordinance isn't 11 o'clock.
Well, yeah, so once we figure out what that is, it should also be, they should cross-reference themselves. So that way somebody doesn't have a question when they're reading the ordinance to say, oh, but I don't know what the noise ordinance is. So it's already stated in the fireworks ordinance.
So for instance, when you, and I refer back to the school just because there are so many policies, when you open a policy, and at the top it says, this policy also cross-references DED, DEJ. But because we're not electronic, it might be really helpful that the information be contained within the ordinance. So when you say, this ordinance also, you know, cross-references the noise ordinance, which is, and it's just contained right there, because we're not electronic, so it's not very handy for someone to say, oh, okay, I can shoot off my fireworks between these hours. Well, what are these hours? Well, it's right there in the ordinance and on the permit.
Yeah, it's there for you.
I think it's just for clarity.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm going to hit on basically what you're saying. So my suggestion would be that there would be a fireworks packet.
Right.
So one
Yeah.
piece being the permit, the second piece or third pieces would be the ordinance with all that information in there. And then the person going out doing the inspection, make sure they ask the person, you did get the packet, you read and understood everything. So if there is any problems where you're shooting after hours or you didn't get the permit, you are subject to these fines. Or
Correct.
whatever the first violation would be, which I think was a warning, which was suggested, right?
Right.
And then second would be the fine.
Well, maybe they should also sign that page. That way, if it comes down to a fine being assessed, then they can say, they can't say, we didn't see that, or, you know.
Yeah, I mean.
Well,
it
I mean, when
definitely-
there's, they have to sign the fireworks
They have to
permit.
sign
So
that
basically, when
firework.
they're signing the permit, when the inspection's done, you know, the inspector says, you've read all the, you know, the regulations for this, you've
Yeah.
signed it, so you understood everything that you're
Yeah.
signing for.
Barry, you make a great point, and James, you do as well. I think it would be helpful to now reference the ordinance in the permit since we don't have it. So that would have to be an additional line that says you received and read the ordinance on the permit as well. Just an extra check and balance.
Yep, so that way there's no,
Barry, have you read this proposal?
yes, because I had the question, my question was, you know, the limitations on the Friday, Saturday. And then obviously the other thing was.
So every permit that comes in, you're going to have to go and make sure that they're 150 feet away from whatever, another structure, or 75 feet
That's
away
50
from
feet.
water and all that other stuff. You really
Right.
think that that's going to happen?
What's not going to happen. I mean, in some cases, it's not going to happen. I mean,
What do you mean in some
He does-
cases?
he
Why
does
would we
that all-
adopt
He does
a
that already
policy?
on
Huh?
He does that, he already goes and inspects, but, yeah, I know what you're saying.
You know
is-
what I'm saying?
I mean, you're not going to get the perfect, I mean, if it's
Yeah.
within reason, I mean, we give them the benefit of the doubt. I
And we
mean,
have
if
the
they're
same
shooting
people over and over and over.
right next to a house, obviously, like I said,
Right.
last year, there was one on a certain street that I denied, and they still shut off the fireworks. Then that
Right.
becomes the policing issue. I mean, so it does happen, it does get inspected, and people do get denied because of, you know, the clearances that they need to have, that they do not have.
But at the end, the ordinance is more to do with the people who are not
Correct.
securing a permit.
Right.
Not the people who are.
Right.
The people who are securing the permit, are really just acknowledging, yes, I know that if I didn't have a permit that, I could be subject to these fines. But the ordinance is really about the people who are not securing a permit, who are, potentially maybe just shooting off fireworks every day of the week just because it's beautiful weather, without a permit. And those are the really, I think, what plague us the most, and we need to have a response to.
So with all that being said, the police department has to get on board with this and actually do the job that needs to be done in policing this, because that's where the problem is the people that are not getting the permits and it's not getting policed, and that's, where the violations are.
Right.
Correct. This also puts the town in a better legal position because now we have this ordinance. So say somebody were to shoot off fireworks in order to cause a forest fire, we're able to now investigate that further and hold them liable because it does state it in the ordinance.
Ain't that already on your permits, Barry?
What's that?
That, what you just said?
Well, as far as the forest fire, I mean, that goes hand in hand. I mean, we would have done that anyways. I mean, if we have a class 4 or 5 day, we're in red flag. If a
We're able
permit was
to- yeah.
issued, we would call them up and say, your permit's revoked for this day because of the fire danger that we're in.
Right, I
Then again, if
believe
they
we-
shoot it,
I believe we put a line in there that says that if you, and I don't have it in front of me, I didn't get one.
it was a
but-
one,
It's right.
well, I
It's
think
okay,
it's 1,
it's
2,
fine.
and 3.
I believe it states.
Yeah.
It's right in front of you.
Oh, behind the computer. It does state somewhere, that all the parties will be held financially responsible, for expense incurred by the town of Winchester or parties associated for the mitigation of any fire, emergency damage, to self or others resulting in the misuse of fireworks. So while you do that investigation already, we can now reclaim funds based on that because we have an ordinance for it, whereas in the past, we haven't.
Well, we have. We haven't had the issue, but we've actually gone, if somebody's blatantly and causes a forest fire, we do charge them.
Right, but even if it's just damage to somebody else's home, yes, but it gives us further legal, not leniencies, that's not the right word, but it gives us further reassurance that we can now have that ability to do so.
Did you type this up?
Kerry actually did this a bunch of years ago and it didn't pass, and then I looked it over, a couple other people looked it over, we changed some of it, and yeah,
And did you look at the permits that Barry has?
I have seen the permit, yep.
And why are they getting the permit from the police department and not from the
Well,
administrator?
that was my other comment, what I made 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago, was that police department gets revised to the fire department, because it
Right.
basically does come from the fire department, even though he initially signs it after I do. And I think basically the signature for him is just, or the police department is to be aware of what permits are being issued, as well as Carrie does the list and then emails
Right.
them as they're updated to both of
But
us.
they come in here to get the permit.
But it's basically issued through the fire department, because the fire department
This
is
says-
regulating
this
the
says a
fireworks through the
written-
state of New Hampshire.
Shall obtain a written Class C fireworks permit from the police department prior to displaying.
So we
Class
were,
C.
that was what Barry had talked about before, and that was something we also discussed about changing.
It needs to change.
Yeah, it was going
Yeah.
to change just to the fire department, yes.
I think there was another public comment behind you, Barry, sorry.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Just a quick question, and I'm not trying to confuse anybody on this, but there are fireworks, like the little fountains that the kids like to watch, that don't make noise?
That's not a Class C firework, so they're classified by different things. So like in New Hampshire, you're allowed to have sparklers and things of that nature, but Class C fireworks, Barry could talk to it
Is
further.
there anything that makes a noise?
I think it's
No.
anything that shoots in a certain, travels a certain distance.
Well, okay, I understand that. So if you have a bottle rocket, because that's not Class C, then theoretically you can just
I
shoot
think a
that off
bottle rocket
wherever.
is Class C.
It is.
Yeah.
Or whatever. If you have something that makes noise that isn't a Class C, you can still shoot it off.
Well,
Because it's
You
not
need a
Class C.
permit.
I don't know if you're, I don't want you to limit yourself. Like, if there's a broader thing that we need to make sure that we say while we're in this discussion, it probably ought to be done now.
So most of this ordinance is taken directly from the state RSAs, so it's not stuff we made up. It's directly from what we currently follow as a town, which is the state RSA. So they had that written. We did not change any part of that.
Right, but
Our,
you guys want to change it a little bit to make the town more, to be able to receive the funds, to be able to, have a little bit more say, to have the police department have a little bit more pull to it. So we are changing it. I understand you may have pulled that, but obviously that isn't good enough because we're
Right, so
changing it.
this-
So I'm just throwing out an idea that
Yep.
while we're talking about it, maybe we ought to look at it and say, hey, is this covering everything? Are we like forgetting anything? Everybody's so quick to get this done, but just when we first started this, everybody up there was confused on what we were going to talk about.
So the state RSA actually gives us the ability for the town to take on the fine. This was introduced to the town a bunch of years ago, I think 2006?
18 is when I
18.
first drafted it. It
Yes,
didn't go anywhere.
2018. So the state RSA actually gives the town the ability to hold these fines, to issue fines themselves. But past select boards never instituted that. So what we're trying to do is actually bring more income to the town with this ordinance. We're not changing anything outside of the state RSAs.
Okay,
and the RSA includes, as does our permit include, Class B and Class C.
Which we currently already follow within our permit.
Right,
okay, well, I
that's what
haven't
our,
heard of Class B yet, I've only heard Class C. See, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
This is a public thing, we need to know what you guys read.
our permit already says Class B, Todd. Our permit
I
already.
don't have a permit in my hand.
I know,
Did you
but
hand
I'm
out
saying this
permits?
is-
Everybody got a permit?
This
That's
is-
what I'm saying. If you guys want to talk about information in a public comment, we need to have the information to follow along. You guys didn't say anything about a Class B, so I'm assuming there's nothing about a Class B. We can't follow along, so all I'm saying is because I didn't hear it.
No, you make a great
Let's try to make
point.
sure that everything's in there.
You make a
If it's
great
in there,
point.
that's fine.
You make an absolute great point, Todd. I'm in 100% agreement with you, and I'll propose it to the select board after this public hearing, that when we do have a public hearing, we're able to put more information about anything that we're changing.
Absolutely.
Into the website and on the internet in any way we can, possibly posting the ordinance that we are putting out and the old ordinance that we have. You make a great point. Thank you.
And is this getting voted on tonight?
It could,
No,
yes.
this is a draft, and first of all, a town ordinance has to be voted on by the governing body.
Right.
We're not the governing body.
I just wanted to make sure before.
It should go out to the
As soon as
public.
public comment was closed,
It
I
should
wanted to
go
make
to
sure
the
there
public
wasn't.
in an election.
I'm actually I'm gonna stop us
No.
right here.
It doesn't go to,
Is there any more public comment? I think there's, hearing one more?
It should go to the public. for the vote.
That's,
Hello, Kevin Bazan. I'm just wondering about the motivation behind this
We
ordinance.
don't have an ordinance.
Did the police chief ask for this?
Then if we do,
I'm sorry, I'm gonna also.
No,
Did the fire chief ask for this?
no,
no.
Have any citizens asked for this?
yes.
And by what means did they ask this? Did they just approach people individually, or did they come to public comment, or is there a record of maybe someone being a concerned citizen?
I can only speak for myself personally that I've had 7 individuals ask me for this, and I know that this has been trying to be enacted since 2018.
I think this is one of those situations where if our current permit process isn't broken, why are we
Okay.
trying to fix it with an ordinance?
We are getting really, really in the weeds here, so I'm gonna try one more time. We have a permit process.
Yep.
The permit has to be completed at least 15 days in advance, signed off on by the chief of police and the fire chief, who is supposed to and does inspect the area for which the fireworks are going to be shot off.
Yep.
And signs the permit. The permit comes to us, the governing body, to sign and approve, which we do. The permit covers both Class B and Class C fireworks, which are also covered under the State of New Hampshire RSA 160C:6.
Yep.
This ordinance is simply a policy to allow the town of Winchester, should someone be shooting off a firework without a permit, to fine that individual and keep the money in Winchester. Right now, any resident who secures a permit for fireworks would not be subject to this ordinance at all because they secured an approved permit to shoot off their fireworks. If this ordinance was voted on by the select board and your neighbor calls because somebody is shooting off a firework and the police say, look at that, there's no permit, we're going to go out there and issue them a warning. That is the purpose for the ordinance. And it happens again, and they get to issue them a fine. And that $250 fine gets to be counted as revenue for the town of Winchester. So this ordinance does not restrict any person who is following the appropriate process for securing a permit, which we already have. This ordinance just allows the town to keep the fine that they levy against the person who is not following the appropriate permit process.
Okay.
And just to add to that real quick, currently, the town does not have a fine.
Does currently the town have a policy, or does it have an ordinance already existing for fireworks?
No.
No.
Okay, you just told me that's my point. That is exactly my point. I don't think 5 people should be making a decision that's affecting the entire town.
Hey,
Where are
If
the
you want a
7 people
policy,
tonight?
if you want an ordinance, it should go to the public during an election process.
But that's not ever been the process.
That's not how it works.
But hang on a second, because I'm trying to stay in order here. Kevin, did you have any additional public comments?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
What do you feel, Kevin? Do you want this policy as a town ordinance?
I think it's, first of all, clarity. All of the permits that I have received in the past have never been signed off by the police chief, only by the fire chief.
That's right.
That's not true. They
That's-
come into this office and both of them sign it.
I guess I'll try and find one of my old ones. And Lindsay, you say there's no penalty for those with a permit. It says right here, enforcement with permit. Failure to comply with the provisions of the ordinance for those with a permit could get a fine of up to $250.
Right, but what it says, the permit, I'm sorry, I'm going to start over, Kevin.
Yep.
Failure to comply with any provision of this ordinance with a permit may result in a written warning or a fine, right. However, this ordinance just says that you need to have a permit and you need to follow the permit. So you're right, if you have a permit and you're not following the provisions of the permit, you could be fined, but that would happen regardless. If you're not following the permit, you're supposed to be getting in trouble for that anyway, and you're not.
I don't think that's a part of the original of the current permit. There's no fine that's mentioned.
No, currently our permit, if you,
I didn't say a fine, I just said your
And
privileges.
I mean, under enforcement without a permit, there's this investigation by the Winchester Police Department and the Fire Department. I think, we're creating more work for our short-staffed both departments. I see where you're coming from, and there's probably, and I believe there's good intentions involved, but I don't think this is needed at this time.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Hearing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We have heard from the public today with regard to the ordinance. It doesn't sound like the majority of our population is interested in drumming up extra revenue for people who are not following the permit. Is there a motion to move forward with any part of this ordinance, or
I'd like to first say that with tweaking some of the ordinance, I have no problem with it because it generates revenue back to the people that are not following what a policy is or a town ordinance is. I've gotten several fireworks permits over the years, and I comply with what needs to happen. And Barry goes up and checks my house and makes sure that I'm not going to burn the woods down. With tweaking some of this, I'm absolutely fine. But if we're going to, my own personal feeling is, if we're going to do a town ordinance, which is, this is good with some tweaks to it, I'm going to put it out to the public. And that's the only way I'm going to agree to it, because I don't think 5 people or even 10 people should make the decision. Like Kevin said, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. The only aspect that would be beneficial is if the money of anybody violating it comes back to the town, and we can utilize that money. So you're basically covering the people that are doing what they're supposed to do by getting a permit, but you're also holding the people accountable that aren't doing that. But I think the people should make the decision and not 5 of us. The town, the governing body during the election, I'd support a town ordinance that, or a petitioned article that would support that during the election process, not just us 5.
I'm just going to say, in all the years I've been on the board, we've sent, the fire department's gone out to find these guys. You get there, I didn't do it, so how are you going to prove, unless you are actually there and see them light that fuse, how are you going to prove it's them and get money for the town?
Yeah.
That, I don't know, just create more.
Chen,
I agree
we
with
did
that.
talk about that last time we brought this up, and Barry did mention that there are ways to find out, like if you find an empty box and it's in a field, and you could obviously, I mean, they do fire investigations, they could tell where these things come
But
from.
who lit it?
Well,
How
If you
much
didn't
work,
see
how
them
much
light
work
it-
can you do?
It don't
It's
ma- I don't
it
think
goes
that
to the
would matter.
property owner at that point.
Yeah, I don't think it would matter who lit it. I think that,
Right.
that you could find the property owner.
Correct.
And 99% of the time, I think that somebody who calls for their neighbor could give a statement that it was on that neighbor's property that lit it off, and you would find the property owner. I definitely get Channy's frustration because I've experienced it numerous years, but you can pretty much, when you gotta spend 500 gram repeater on the ground, the problem was that we could never issue the citation. You know, you have this book that has the, no parking, obstructed traffic, whatever. Never said anything about no, violation of town ordinance, whatever. We need that. There was a spot that was open that said in our ticket books for the town ordinances that said other. And you could put the town ordinance and the number of the town ordinance and cite them for that. But we didn't have that.
This would be that ordinance.
This would be that ordinance. And that's why I would be supportive, because you're going to find out the people that are doing it legally and doing it right and doing what they're supposed to and making sure there's a water source and everything are going to get permits, and they're not the people that are going to get the fines. It's going to be the people that don't. But I still believe that the town should vote on it and not us.
So Teresa, I want to kind of, I need to address that. This board is the governing body, and we were elected to make those decisions. And we hold public hearings all year long, in which we invite the public here to provide their opinion so that we can make an informed decision. I mean, we had one just last week. We've had, I don't know, maybe 12 in the last year that I've been on the board. All of those instances are instances where there's a public hearing and we're noticing it well in advance. We're inviting the public to provide their opinion. And then we, as the governing body, are tasked with making a decision to the best of our ability based on the information we have in front of us. So I disagree that this is an instance where we would put that out to warrant and/or a petition warrant article, because the development of policy, implementation, and ordinances is the responsibility of the select board. So I just, in thinking about the precedent of public hearings.
When
Well,
you
one
say
thing-
ordinance, I look at the population. We're the governing body when we're 99% of the time. It's that 1% during a town meeting or an election day that the governing body is the people that come in here and vote. When you talk about an ordinance is different than a policy. Policies, yes, the 5 of us are elected to do that. An ordinance is much more stringent and much more strict, especially when you're dealing with in a criminal court of law, in my opinion, especially because you have a town, the body of the town that votes for this ordinance. It says, the majority of the people say they want this. And it's not just 5 people or 7 people that came to you or 3 people that came to me.
Teresa,
Well, we hold a public hearing, one gentleman shows up to voice his opposition. Where are none of the 7 people that support it, none of them could show up? So-
They decided not to, but Teresa, while I do agree with you, I think that
Anonymous
maybe
again.
it would warrant, if we were to say, okay, no more fireworks, that I think would warrant a public, a vote. But as far as instituting fines that are revenue for our town, I believe that is the select board's job, because we were elected by the people, and they expect us to do that.
I'm supportive of this. I'm just not supportive of it by 5 of us. I absolutely agree with some quirks to it. I'm not making a motion. I'm just making a point out there that I think the body, in this situation, in this particular situation, I believe that it should be the townspeople that vote on the ordinance that should be enforced.
Teresa, I just want to say one more time, if we could vote as a body to increase sewer rates that affect people's livelihoods, of good people, who pay their bills, if the select board's able to do that by state RSA, and then something like this, which actually helps those people now by other people who are not exactly following things that should be followed, like where's that difference?
Somebody make a motion so we can vote.
Actually, what I was going to say is, is there going to be a motion, or?
I would think, yes, I will make a motion to follow the recommendation of our, we heard from our fire chief. We talked through this numerous times, and I would make a motion to approve the ordinance as written, minus, Carrie, because we didn't do this before, to take out section 5.
Permissible fireworks shall only be
Permissible fireworks
discharged.
shall only be discharged, and to also take out, I would lower the fee for enforcement with a permit from $250 to $100. And the reason I'm doing that is because now anybody will go get a permit, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to follow the actual permit itself. And then also take out the part where it says in the beginning, where it says,
Permitted by the police
by the
department, it
police
should be
department,
fire.
yeah, which should say the fire department.
Yep.
Barry had a question?
And Teresa, another thing, you can assess those penalties, they're not gonna pay it. I mean, you know that, so.
There was a motion, and now.
But it wasn't seconded yet.
I'm doing that right now. Yep, there's a motion for the ordinance changing police to fire in that first paragraph, taking out number 5, permissible fireworks shall only be discharged. So there's no, as long as you have a permit, there's no additional criteria there, and lowering the fine for, if for any reason you've gone against the ordinance, but you have a permit, to $100 versus the $250, correct?
Correct.
All right. And I will second for discussion, and Barry had a question.
I'm sorry. So is the police chief weighed in on this at all?
Yes.
Yes.
Could
So-
you just discuss, because
Yeah.
this is basically going to fall upon the police department if this ordinance gets passed, and then there's, violations that have to come out. I mean, does he, like Kevin said, they're understaffed, so if he's not going to have the staff to do this, then we're kind of basically making an ordinance that's not going to be
You can
followed.
correct me if I'm wrong, but basically what the chief of police said is that the town of Winchester has to continue to move forward in our best available capacity, and staffing can't be always part of our concern, because when the staff is available and this is an opportunity, then, then it's an
I
opportunity.
think staffing has to be a concern if we don't have a staff and the noise ordinance goes to 11 o'clock and there's not a police officer on duty. If somebody calls in the complaint and there's nobody to investigate the complaint, and because we don't have staff, then staffing is an issue.
But in the end, it's really just us failing ourselves. So but if that staff was available, now we don't have an ordinance. So basically what he said is you should move forward with the best possible solutions for Winchester.
Okay.
And he is as well.
Right.
Did I get that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like, without the ordinance, like Lindsay said, there's no way for us to even have the ability to now bring money back into the town.
Not bringing money back into the town, but there's still an RSA there if it's
There
a
is.
violation. So regardless of where the money's going, the fines are still there.
But the money's not coming back to us,
And I understand that.
that we're using resources for. So that,
This is bad luck.
Every time, Barry.
Every time.
so,
you're here.
so with the current RSA, we would still have to use the limited resources that we have, but if there was fault found, we wouldn't be able to gain that revenue. With this ordinance, with the limited resources we have, if there is fault found, we would at least gain revenue.
That's a good way of putting it.
I just wanted to make sure that he was aware of this and had, weighed
Yes.
in on this okay, thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, Mary.
Thanks, Barry.
Is there any additional discussion? There's been a motion and a second, and again, I just want to reiterate, this is this is an ordinance for the town of Winchester to follow an RSA that is already available under the state of New Hampshire, and to allow that should we have an opportunity to investigate and determine that someone shot off fireworks without a permit or potentially caused damage, we have an opportunity to recoup the fine into revenue for the town of Winchester. Hearing no additional discussion, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed?
No,
No.
The ordinance does not pass. Just as a reminder to anybody listening, you are still obligated to get a permit for your fireworks. This was not a discussion about taking permitting away. We still have a permit process. Just want to make sure that's clear. Moving on to regular business. We have minutes from Wednesday, May 4th. We weren't able to do these because, Teresa, you weren't here last week, and it was just you, Nat, and I.
And I do apologize for that, but
That's
I
okay.
was in quarantine, so it's my first meeting that I missed in over a year.
I know. Do you have, is there a motion to approve these minutes?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second that.
You can't, Jan, it's just the three of us, but that's okay, I'll second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And those are the minutes from May 4th. And then, of course, you can do these ones, Chan. We have minutes from May 11th.
Motion to, no, I can't.
You can't do that one,
Motion to
Teresa.
approve.
Yeah.
Chan, second.
Yeah.
Any changes that were noted? The only thing that I noticed, Carrie, is under adjournment. It was, it was me who made the motion to seal the minutes. It wasn't Teresa, because she wasn't here.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was gonna say that.
That is the only change that I saw. All those in favor? Aye. Any
Abstain.
opposed? One abstention. Okay. Next up is the financial folder. We have a couple of transfers. Withdrawal of funds from the Water Capital Reserve, the amount of $8,393.47. This is to the Stiles Company. And, there's actually two. They are both, I didn't read that wrong yet. One is from water and one is from sewer. We're taking the exact same amount. from each of those capital reserves.
I'll make a motion to approve both of
I'll
those.
second that.
Any additional discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? None, motion carries. There are 2 signatures.
You know what, Teresa, send it down to Teresa if you want.
You're not going to sign that one?
Oh,
That's for you.
yeah.
That's not the minutes.
I thought you meant it only needed 2.
Oh, no, there are 2 places to
Yeah,
sign
yeah.
for all of us. Send it down
There
to
you go,
Teresa,
Tina.
trying to get out of it. All right, this is a request from Dale, Amy, to review some contracts for the roadside mowing. There's going to be a total of 4 weeks. They're going to mow July 11th through the 15th, July 25th through the 29th, and then August 22nd through September 2nd. Funds are in the 22-23 budget, and the total cost is $14,000.
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
I had some discussion.
Yep.
I was just wondering, when was the last time we quoted that?
Well, last
Do it
year, I
every
mean,
year.
it has gone up a couple $1,000s. It was 12,000. Yeah.
So
Right.
we
Every-
quoted-
I believe that this is the only company that will rent
Yeah.
out a tractor for us to use. And they actually downsized their fleet. They only have 2 now. So at some point, they are going to go to the wayside.
Right.
So
So that would be my only additional discussion, is that because they have a diminished fleet, that I think we could put it back out to bid to somebody with more of a fleet that would give us a lower price.
He's
I
only got
don't think
one-
there's any other
Yeah,
company. I can have Dale look at it, but I don't think there's anybody else out there.
Yeah,
Okay.
unfortunately, there's one.
What line item, I mean, not line item, but what, that's going to be, money's going to be taken out for this year, or is it going to be taken out July 1st? Because
July 1. It's
Okay.
22-23 budget.
Okay.
Any budgeted?
Yes.
I mean, for the sake of this year, and because July's here, I would say yes, but maybe looking into it additionally to see if we can't get something lower from a different company would be worthwhile looking at.
I think there was a motion and a second.
Yep.
And we were in discussion. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None, motion carries. It looks like I'm the only signature. There's 3 of them. I'll complete this after. Okay. From the folder, we have a request for a property abatement. This is map 8, lot 119-38A. The reason for the abatement is the camper is registered. What does that mean, Carrie?
So if the campers are registered in the Forest Lake Campground.
Gotcha.
They're not taxed.
Thank you. It's for $744.39.
Make that a motion.
Second that.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Do you have a
I
question?
had discussion.
Okay, go ahead.
I was just a question. I was wondering, is that like a state thing, or is that a Forest Lake campground thing?
That's a
or-
state thing.
It's a state thing? Okay, thanks.
Any additional discussion?
Nope.
Try again. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None, motion carries. Sorry about that, Nat.
So like those are like, that can't be a seasonal, correct? They have, I think the seasonals pay
Seasonal,
taxes.
some seasonals do pull in and pull out at the end of the
okay.
year, because they don't want to leave it there during the winter months.
Yeah.
We have a notice of intent to cut. This is map 3, lot 17. We don't need a motion. Just notification. We have our 5-year stewardship agreement that needs to be signed. I'll give Carrie an opportunity just to,
So this
Tell
is
us about that.
part of the closeout of the LCHIP grant that we received for the church steeple. Basically, this is an agreement with the church, us, and LCHIP that they will follow the rules of keeping insurance, keeping the building up to a certain standard. If there's any type of remodel, they have to, any severe remodel or demo, they have to run it by the L-chip to make sure that they're following the rules.
So this just finishes out the grant
Correct.
and make sure that we adhere to certain provisions moving forward. And this grant was in the amount of $23,602.25.
Have discussion, I'll wait.
Yep, so is there a motion to
Make a motion.
approve and a second?
Second.
Thank you, and for discussion?
I was just curious. So the town applied for a grant to repair the steeple that belongs to the church that the select board is now signing.
Steeple
We-
belongs to the town.
The
We own the
steeple
top.
and the clock belong to us.
Yeah.
And we had to fix the clock.
And then the
fix
church belongs
to
to the
the
bar.
church.
Is there a lien on that?
That's what this is.
That's a lien, but that was a grant application to the church property, not the steeple.
To the steeple, it's not to the church.
No, it was the property.
It's the property as a whole.
Right, so we applied for a grant for the property that doesn't belong to us.
Not for the whole property, for the steeple to be repaired to maintain our clock.
So then
Protect
that.
our clock.
So then that now still applies to the whole building.
Correct. It
And is
protects,
there
it
in-
protects us, it protects the
Do-
LCHIP grant and the money that we put into it.
Do we, if that is not followed through
Yeah.
by the church, because that applies to the whole church, does that put any liability on the town?
No, it's all onto the church. If they're not following the rules, which they've read and signed off on, they're liable, not us.
I'm gonna leave that alone.
Right, so there is a notarized signature page from the owner of the church as well, signing off on their responsibility to the LCHIP. Okay. There was a motion and a second and
Did
discussion.
we have legal look at that?
I did not have legal look at that. It's drawn up by LCHIP, and I'm sure their legal team reviewed it.
I would request that we had legal look at that with, into any liability that could happen with that grant, considering that that falls under things that aren't, the town does not own. Even though we already entered into this agreement, I would suggest that we still had legal look into any financial responsibility that could be a burden on the town in the future.
Who made the motion? You made the motion? Thank you, Herb, because I had forgotten already. Do you want to proceed with your motion, or would you like to
Why
withdraw
don't we just
pending?
vote on the original motion and see if
Yeah.
it passes?
Yeah.
If it does, then
I'm just asking if, considering the discussion and the concern about legal, if he'd like to.
I just think
versus-
we're wasting our money, but,
Yeah.
because we've already been through
Yeah.
part of it. Why not finish it out?
That's fine. I was just asking. There's been a motion and a second to sign off on the grant, the 5-year stewardship agreement, excuse me. In the amount of, yeah, it was $23,602.25. A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
4-1. Motion passes. It's just one signature. Yep, no, just the one. There are several permits to display fireworks. This one is, the proposed display is from July 1st through the 1st through the 4th. And the fire chief and the chief of police have both signed off on that, and this is on 699 Keene Road.
so that for all 4 nights, or
No, I think the proposed display, it says the 1st through the 4th, so could we get, I would have assumed because they're applying for it so early, they're just looking for the best weather versus trying to do it every day.
Every night?
Yes.
I can clarify that. but
Thank
yes,
you.
That would be my guess as well.
All right, so maybe the motion to approve includes Carrie's specification of a day versus all the days, which I think she could do after the fact. I'll make that a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Perfect. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. This is another permit to display fireworks. This is for 253 Back Ash Wheelit, and the proposed display date is 5/29/22.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None, motion carries. And just for the record, I wanted to confirm that the chief of police and the fire chief both signed off on that one as well. All right, and the rest of us is more informative than anything. All right, we had an email, a letter, whatever, from KJK Wireless LLC, looking to discuss entering into a lease with the town of Winchester to build a second tower on Meeting House Hill. So they negotiated the original lease with AT&T for the existing tower, and they were thinking about adding to the existing tower because of the usage needed, and realized that modifying the current tower would be more expensive than putting in a second tower. And they would like to add a second tower, what is it, like 20 feet away?
I think we need to know who owns the property up there. We need
It's
to know-
conservation-owned
Winchester
property,
Conservation.
and I would suggest that that gets tabled until the Conservation Commission could discuss it.
Yeah, so confirmation is discussing it at their next meeting, or?
Yes.
Perfect. So, I mean, that was, I anticipated that, I was just bringing
I
it
would,
to.
I would also ask that they submit some sort of proposal and just not an email.
They also just added 10 more feet to the tower they got there, so.
Right, so they added the 10 feet, and then they realized they needed even more?
More, yeah.
Yeah, so I think this is going to go before Conservation
Should.
first, and we'll be tracking it on our end just to see where that's progressing.
I would say, let them modify that one tower. They're gonna do it regardless of cost.
Yeah,
I mean,
it'll be,
rather than have two side by side up there.
He has to do land leases too, and the money, the income that comes to the town as well. It's just not about footprint, so.
I'll be interested to hear what
And that's
Conservation,
conservation land.
yeah, has to say about it. Just as a heads up or an FYI, the town had gone after a grant from the EPA in order to clean up at the AC Lawrence site. The EPA received 438 applications and were able to award 237 grants. The town of Winchester was not one of them. They encouraged us, they probably always do, to continue to reapply for the next grant competition cycle, should funding become available. So my guess is it's one of those things where you just keep applying, and when money comes in, maybe
Yeah.
you're lucky enough.
There isn't a lot up there to be done. I mean,
Yeah.
we've just got monitor wells up there now, so that's probably why we were turned down.
Yeah, it does say funds to award 237 grants from the highest ranking applications, so they have some kind of, they have some
Scoring system.
Scoring system, and we did not score high enough for that need. And then last up, we are revisiting the cemetery position. This was meant for current public or discussion, correct, Carrie?
Correct.
Okay.
It's just a position, it's not a person, so.
Right, just the
Discuss-
position
Yeah, whether you're going to do 12 hours or 18 hours.
versus 18 hours. All right, perfect. And I think, Sherry, is that why you're with us this evening? All right, would you like to step up? I know, but will you anyway? Thank you. So the request was, you had a resignation, and we're looking to replace that position.
Yes.
That position had currently been working 12 hours a week.
Yes.
And you're looking for that 18-hour. And I feel like I was a part of budget discussion a couple of years in a row where this conversation has come up. Am I thinking about the same
you
position?
were, yes,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. So,
It was previously 18 hours. I'd requested 30. It was cut to 18, and now it's been cut to 12. And that's the reason I'm losing the person.
because it's a 12-hour versus an 18-hour. Yeah.
Yes.
How many cemeteries is the cemetery, are the,
There are 10, but mind you, some of them are rather small. One of them is only 2 headstones large. So we have 4 that we mow and currently bury in. And the rest are somewhat remote, some are very remote, and we keep them under control. They don't have grass, so there's no mowing. It's brush, trees, things of that nature, keeping the stones repaired.
How old are they, just to ask?
Pardon me?
How old are they?
Oh, they go back to the 1800s. We have we have Civil War monuments. Yep.
so there's 4 that you actively grounds keep, and then there's 6 that you monitor, try to get out to, make sure nothing's going
We
awry.
keep the brush down and things of that nature, yeah. Try to repair the
We've-
stones.
We already decided to do the third position, but only.
The hours is what we're having.
Right, we kept it, because we
Because-
has a resignation, we advised to just get it posted at the 12 hours, and I think last week had the conversation that we would follow up with comment from the cemetery and the trustees, right?
See, I'm not in favor of the third person, Sherry, because you had told us there, I think it was last spring, that you didn't
You
need
keep
the-
bringing that back, James, over and
Well,
over,
you-
and
well,
I
that's-
was wrong.
Well, okay, that's
I
fine, but
was
you told us
wrong.
you didn't need the third person, so that's where I'm gonna stand with it. You said after the building was done, you didn't need the third person again. And the person we hired last spring, we told them this was a part-time seasonal position for 1 year. When they were hired, that position would be done away with, so.
This conversation isn't about the third person, though, because we already agreed that we would be keeping that third person. This
Yes,
conversation
I didn't
is-
agree to that, I wasn't here. That's why I asked when,
Well, this was last week.
no, it wasn't last week we talked about a third.
It wasn't, it
It
was
was last
indeed.
week.
No, it was
last week.
not.
Yes, it was.
When you guys decided to hire it, it probably was the week before, when Chan and I were not here.
Nope, last
Well-
week we discussed the
I did
resignation.
not vote to
We
hire.
discussed the resignation in non-public.
Well,
And we
we did
advised
discuss it, we
to
did discuss it, but we did not,
post the position at
we
the
did
12
not
hours.
vote to hire the third person.
The third person was already hired. This position was a resignation that we're replacing. The conversation wasn't replacing or not replacing, the conversation was 12 hours versus 18 hours.
Yeah, I remember that conversation.
Right, so
but
we never-
okay.
there was never a
All
vote
right.
to take
Well, I'm
that
not in
position
favor of it
out.
anyway, so.
Sherry, I really appreciate that after a couple of years of working, as the sexton, that you've recognized that there is a need for additional staffing and acknowledge that, you were hopeful that maybe there wasn't, but now you recognize that there is, unfortunately or fortunately, any way you want to spin it. That's how we figure out sometimes, by trial and error, what's working and not working.
I truly hoped that we would be able to get by without that person. It makes all the difference in the world. We have projects ongoing all the time. Every time I turn around, there's something new that needs to be attended to. And I cannot be out in the field 24/7. I can't do it. The office does have some pretty time-consuming constraints. I do
And I-
what I can, I get out there, but we can't plan on me on the mower. We can't plan on me being out doing trimming.
And I
I get
think-
too many interruptions. I do as much as I can.
You had discussed that previously, that when you came into that position, you've had an opportunity to really dig into the books and a lot of information. And,
Yes.
and again, we've talked about this from all of the different board levels, and that is just because you have something that's been done historically one way for a long period of time doesn't mean that it was the most efficient or always the best, or sometimes it is the best, and it's trial and error that we find out otherwise. Did the cemetery trustees have an opportunity to meet about this issue?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
They spoke to Carrie.
They did. Henry did speak to everybody. They are not going to make a stand. They're going to stand behind Sherry and what she needs, but they're not going to, because they are her boss, and the seasonal helpers, laborers, are our employees. So really, they don't have any, technically have any say.
They
But
support their-
support Sherry and what Sherry needs.
Thank you.
So we're talking about a seasonal position, either 12 or 18 hours.
Right, it's already 12. We're really talking about seasonal position bumping from 12 to 18, so an additional
We're
6
just
hours.
looking
Do you have
to
money-
increase
Do you
it
have money in
6
the
hours.
budget right now?
I have enough in my budget to cover it.
Pardon me?
I have enough in my current budget to cover it.
For the 22, because it's going to be July 1, so for 22, 23 at the 18 hours.
That I don't know. I would have to ask Amy.
Well, I guess I'm not
Yes, she
understanding how
does.
you have
Thank you.
enough. You know you have enough now till June 30th and not know that you have enough for the following year
I think
budget.
She does.
we did have it,
I
yeah.
think you budgeted for it, but I'm not sure of that.
I was trying to remember budget season 2, Herb. I feel like it was budgeted at
I
18
thought it
as
was,
well.
I thought it was like an
Again, I could
extra
be wrong.
12 something, right?
Budgeted at 18, right?
That I don't know. I don't have the details. The money is there for it.
I'm sorry, I can't answer the question, but it became very confusing during budget time as to what was going to end up being done.
I
Well,
agree.
Teresa-
$12 an hour at 18 hours for 26 weeks.
So there you go. It was budgeted at the 18
Yep.
hours.
Wait a minute, this would equal to, wait a minute, based on, 12 hours per,
How many people do you have now
right there,
Good question.
working for you?
seasonal part-time laborers.
Plus Jeannie, but she's resigning.
She's resigned, so
Yes.
you're gonna be down just 2 people and yourself.
Yes.
And the other 2 people work, what? how many?
30 to 32 hours.
We took out that money and put it in here for that next person, for the part-time laborer. At 12, at maximum. So write this down, at maximum, the agreement was, for the budget, $12 per hour at 18 hours, 26 weeks.
Yep.
26, we're there 33.
Huh?
We're there 33 weeks, not 26.
16. With a difference, it would be $769.
Based on the weather, yeah.
Correct.
So you're talking, at most, $12 an hour, 18 hours, when you hire somebody, starting July 1st.
So it's, yeah.
All right. Did you have anything else you'd like to add, Sherry?
Nope.
Okay. So the request is to move from the 12 hours to the 18 hours, and we've confirmed that the intended budgeted amount was up to 18 hours for that position already. Is there a motion to move forward with the 18 hours?
I'll make a motion to move forward with 18 hours.
I will second. Is there additional discussion? I see you thinking, Teresa. Are you all set?
You're worried. You're looking.
I'm just watching you, like,
No,
look off into the
I'm
distance. I'm wondering
processing
if
it
you
in
have
my
any
mind.
questions.
Because I'm remembering, because, you know, I'm budget conscious, I'm processing during budget that that's what we agreed to, and that was my word, so I'm going to vote in the affirmative. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Seeing no additional discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Motion passes 4-1. For the 8th.
That starts July 1st, though, okay?
Sherry, can you stay there for a second? I just have a quick question, if that's okay? For Sherry?
Yes, and, yes, but for clarification, you can hire now. It's
Because
just
she's
that
already
bumps
got
up
the
to
money there,
that.
that's
Yeah,
what I
you
was
can,
gonna
you
say.
can hire that now, but the bump really is
The
effective.
bump don't happen until July 1st.
There you go.
I'm curious about the Civil War monuments.
Oh, I believe the DAR actually placed little placards at
Yeah.
the graves of our Civil War members. So we have a number of them in different cemeteries.
Yeah, I
If
think
you wanted to
there's-
stop out, I'll tell you where they are.
But you told me they were in the brush, right?
We keep the brush down. There used to be brush.
There used to be grass, maybe? Probably.
I would assume, especially like Willis Cemetery, which is in Ashland up on the hill behind a house, that one has Civil War veterans in it. And I'm certain that at the point that it was first put in, that of course there would have been some grass and things. We're trying to figure out the best way to get the roots from the brush that we have cut down out of there. It's difficult. It's very steep, so it's hard to get equipment out there, but we'd like to make it even better. I'd love it if it could be grass
If we could talk when we're done, I would think it'd be great for us to partner with a couple different orgs that I'm in to see if we can get that back to grass.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think they definitely deserve that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, thanks, Sherry.
Yeah, thanks.
That was everything from the folder. Is there anything from the board?
Can you update us on the police chief's job? How's he doing on his certification? What's going on with that?
Update on the police chief. I know the chief of police has been working in collaboration with the school. In fact, was it tonight? I think it was tonight because I had a.
Last night.
Last night.
Last night at 5:30, I was there.
Yep, there was the chief of police and the building principal at Winchester School brought a presentation to parents and community with regard to some of the social media kind of struggles and other things that our kiddos are dealing with that frankly we just did not deal with when we were kids. I've heard some wonderful feedback from our community, from our town clerk, with regard to him performing other duties outside of necessarily patrolling. And I don't have an update on other information, but I'm sure we can get that, Herb.
Okay.
I have a couple of things too, but you want me to go first? Okay. Just a couple of things for me. I was looking ahead at our calendar for June, and we have 5 Wednesdays in June, and I was trying to remember if we had anything scheduled for June 1st specifically.
ARPA.
We have ARPA. I was thinking that if we took a Friday or Wednesday off, that June 1st would be super helpful in my particular schedule. But I'm looking for feedback from the board versus taking the 29th.
It doesn't really matter to me.
And if it doesn't matter, we could bump ARPA to the 8th, if that doesn't bother anyone. We have we can discuss it again next week, for sure, but just putting that out there.
Is it more convenient, whatever you're trying to do, is it more, you want June 1st off?
Yeah, my kid's
Then
trying
let's
to,
do it. Why do we
Yeah.
have to wait?
Okay.
We'll just put ARPA on the 8th unless anybody has a disagreement here.
Awesome.
And we won't have a meeting on June 1st?
I greatly
Is
appreciate that.
everybody okay with that?
Yep.
I'm thinking for a second.
You
I
think
mean,
it-
obviously, if it's better for our chair, then I would go with that.
I appreciate it. I have a family commitment that I'd really like to
Okay.
be a part of. And as
Yeah,
long
I'll
as
go
there's
with
no
that. I'll make it work.
impact.
We don't need to make a motion for that.
Awesome.
I'll make it
So
work.
the 1st, we will not have a meeting on the 1st, which is pretty common for the select board to take one Wednesday off when there are 5 Wednesdays. It's usually the end of the month, and we're going to take it on the 1st. I wanted to clarify something that did come up online. There was a comment about the sewer rate increase. We had a really long discussion about it last week, and we did ultimately decide that we would bring the rate up by 20% with a 10% and a 10% for the total increase to be 20. The question was it 10% and then 20% for the total to be 30? And that was not the intent
I
of the
believe our
board.
minutes state 10 and 20.
10. the minutes stated 10 and 20,
Correct.
then,
So, and again, I mean it as 10 for the first billing, the second billing will show
20, the 20%.
Okay. So
Okay,
maybe that needs a
so-
little bit of clarity.
Yep, so our minutes this week can reflect that
Reflect it.
clarification. And, you know, we could always put into the minutes from last week, parentheses, you could see clarification. So I just wanted to be clear about that, that that was the intent of the board, and we're all nodding in agreement. I just had one other comment, and that's about the live feed. We had some really great constructive feedback last week about ways to deal with commenting online, and I appreciate that. There was a big old hubbubaloo about people complaining that we were censoring them and that they wouldn't be able to make comments. I want to be super clear. You can go make comments on your own page. You can go start a new line someplace on the Winchester Exchange, as long as it's appropriate and follows the community standards for the Winchester Exchange. That is not censorship. We are not allowing public comment as much as possible, and when we're able, on the live stream, because there's no interaction. We're not interacting with the live stream, we're not answering your questions, and when you're posting on the live stream about conversation that's happening, which you're probably doing right now, there's no context. So if you go back and look at those comments, there's zero context unless you go to the part in the video where you have commented about that somebody is saying whatever. So, you know, the purpose of live streaming or recording and making it available later is convenience for our community. No obligation of this board. You have an opportunity to present right here at Town Hall for our public meetings. You have an opportunity to to send an email. You have an opportunity to call any one of us up or stop us and ask a question or raise a concern. We're going to continue to try to eliminate commenting on the live stream. Those were my only 2 comments.
So there is currently no comments on the live stream. So everybody's aware, I finally got it to work. Yay. Just right off the, about the live stream, did manage to make a YouTube page. So for people who don't have social media, they can now watch it. While we will not be streaming live, it will be uploaded to my best ability by the next morning to YouTube. I'm going to work with Carrie to get that link embedded on the town website. And I'll also post it on social media, because I know a couple of people have asked me, their neighbors were wondering if they could watch it without social media. So that YouTube channel has been made. I've started downloading past live streams that we have to that channel. Forgive me, I do have a full-time job, so it's going to take me, a little bit of time, but I'll get it all there. And yeah, so we have that, and we'll put that out there soon. That's all I have about that. Next, I just wanted to recognize a passing that the Conservation Commission had, which was Norman Sims. He was a member of the Conservation Commission for a very long time, and we would just like to recognize him for all of his years of service to conservation and for the town. Second, it is a National EMS and Police Appreciation Week. So I just wanted to, and I'm sure the board agrees, to thank all of our EMS workers and all of our police staff, and our chief and everybody else for the great job that they're doing, and we hope that they continue to do, and that we are in appreciation for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, yes.
And I probably have more, but I forgot. Cool.
Moving on. Anyone else from the board? Any other department heads?
I
Yes.
do. I have a few things. First, I want to start with our biosolid project. We did have a warrant article to go out to bond, but after doing some research on our bond and also finding out that we did receive SRF funding, which is part is a grant, which is 1.2 million for the grant, and then the loan amount 3.4 million for the SRF program that we were offered, with a rate of 2.2. And then our bond is at 6%. So my recommendation along with, I'm going to speak for Rick, after discussing that with them, and both the bond council is also in favor of us going with the SRF, just because of the interest rate. So,
My question is this: if it went out as a warrant article that we were gonna bond it, are we obligated to do that, because that's how the warrant article was
No.
written?
No.
no. No, because in there it also says any other means,
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, there might be something else coming down the pipeline that might fit us better.
yep,
So it's written that way.
okay,
So no, we don't have to.
gotcha.
So we'd be doing a loan instead of,
Loan and grant, yes.
loan and grant instead
Yeah.
of a bond.
Yeah.
I guess, to Lindsay's point, would that rate increase, or is it set in stone?
Well, that being said, so this, we still have to send our application in. I mean, we have been approved, we have to send the application in. And then it goes to the governor's council to be signed off on. So that's like a 1 to 2 month process. So with the rates climbing, as everybody knows, it could fluctuate a little bit, but it's not going to hit 6%.
So
Because
ma-
it's starting at 2.2.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe the only caveat that I would say is if it does reach 6%, that we look at it again.
We can. That would put us out of the running for this bond period.
You'd
We'd have
you'd
to
go
wait
for
till
October.
October. Again, if we don't, it's a catch-22. We wait and think we're going to get more money somewhere, we might not get it, and then all the rates are going to go up. So
So the recommendation.
originally, I was recommending the bond, but after discussion this week, I'm pushing towards SRF.
All right. So is that the action item that you need right now, Carrie? Do you need the board to make the motion?
No, because we're going to get the application together, and then at
Okay.
that point, you guys, I mean, if,
So you're going to move forward
with the SRF.
SRF,
And not the bond,
and that's what you're going to present for our motion?
yes.
Okay. Is there any concern about that from the board?
I
Okay.
will say, tonight is like the last night, if you want to go with the bond, tonight is the last night that we have that, because we have to sign it tonight to get to them by Monday. Or we have to wait till.
October.
Yeah,
October.
Right.
So
I think
the
it's,
option is still open, but,
given the lower rate and the recommendation from, from you and Rick to move forward.
and our bond council.
And the bond council to move forward with the SRF funding, then it seems like that would be the appropriate process.
What is, I'm sorry, but what is the issue with waiting till October in case additional funding comes out?
Well, I kind of threw that out there. The grass might not be greener on the other side. We might not, this deal here with SRF, at the end of the month, the 1.2 grant goes away. We might not get that when we reapply.
Okay. Okay.
And again, the rates could go up as well, because that was my first concern, waiting, because we
Right.
also have other funding, a USDA grant that
Right.
we haven't heard anything on,
Right.
and the congressional money as well, which we have not heard anything on.
In,
So,
in that grant, does it specify that you have to take the full amount?
do you remember that, Rick, the full amount? Do we have to take the full amount for the SRF?
Well, the SRF, I believe the way it works right now is the 1.2 is the ARPA part of the funds. The SRF, which is not in that formula yet, because that, you get that at substantial completion.
Right.
That's 10%. We're working out, we're also, if we go SRF, we're available for Stack Grant Plus. That's
Thank you.
CV projects.
Stack grant.
So we prepared, Gary's working on it, 4 agreements, 4 towns. So it's Stack Grant Plus at substantial completion, we also qualify for another 10% plus 2% for each.
Per town.
Agreement, a percentage. So that's all the stuff we're working on now. So that could bring us up another 24% of forgiveness after the October 1.2 funds are. As Gary said, we have to commit by July 1st, June 1st for these funds. We're already trying to move forward with biosolids study. We have the dryer. I'm not sure if Gary can ask the state, we have to work with Ron on that, because the dryer was never approved. Obviously, we would use those funds. We needed the state to approve it. So I'm not quite sure. I know the state finances, so we don't need, that's why we don't need a bond.
Okay, so I guess for, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think we, yeah.
There's a lot of moving
Yeah,
pieces.
no, I get it. No, it's
So
cool.
we're going to move forward with the SRF funding as recommended, and you're going to present that for the final motion from the
When
board?
it's all put together.
Okay.
Yep.
You
Oh, I do-
also have
I
the
do
work-
have something else.
Yes.
Move that over. I also have access for another Gopher grant for $50,000, up to $50,000. And this is geared towards purchasing, or if we've already purchased, safety equipment and emergency equipment needed as a result of COVID. So I'd like to present that we use some of these funds to get Barry the other half of his bunker gear.
Was this so you're putting in for this grant, and putting in for the grant, you'd like to request the.
They require you
You
to
put down
tell
what? Yep.
you what you are spending the money on. So
I make a.
one is
I
the
make a
bunker
motion for
gear
you
to
do
finish that.
Do it,
And then
do
the
it.
other piece of that is the ambulance.
Yep.
Their laptop, one of their laptops is cracked, the screen. And it's actually going to be like $500 to fix it, where you can turn around and get a new one for 700 and something.
Yeah.
So I recommend getting 2 laptops for the ambulance.
Hang on, the other half of the ARPA funds,
It has nothing to do with that.
It's not ARPA.
I know,
The new
but-
money, new money.
Does does that go for fund?
if you let me finish, you would say that I was trying to look at, under the ARPA information that I had, you want, how much was the other half of the thing that you were gonna?
Bunker gear?
Yes.
34,200.
And how much was for the laptop that they need to replace for the ambulance?
The two, $1,998. That's with,
We have a question for Barry.
Barry, I thought you had like 4 or 5 more years on the gear. The license, I thought the Scott tanks that you need to replace, the remainder of those runs out like this year.
Scott tanks.
Are covered.
SCBA's are all done. Those
I
are
thought
all-
we needed like,
Nope,
No, we
Oh,
did those.
I thought-
we did all those.
oh, okay.
And it's actually like 2 or 3 years on the bunker gear. It's not
Okay.
the 5 or 6.
All
And
right.
so we needed a total of 20. We got sized for 12 last night, so we need 8 more sets.
Of bunker gear, right?
Correct.
And that's gonna be like 34,
well, 34,000 is for 12.
and we only need 8. I think we should let her go and do the
Again, it's-
That's a
application.
grant, right?
It's a grant,
Yeah, I mean, they're going to come back and
Make
say
that a
yay or
motion.
nay.
right?
Yeah, why
It's
don't
not
we do that?
guaranteed.
Why don't we do that?
My only question was the bunker gear definitely falls under that.
From what I'm looking at, yes. If not, they're going to tell me no.
Right.
Right, so my only concern would be like, what can we find that absolutely falls under that to gain that money?
Well, if anybody has any ideas,
I
I've
mean, the
been back
laptops,
in-
could we recover some of the money that we spent on the elections for the COVID stuff? We had, what do we have, all the hand sanitizer, masks, the partitions.
That could qualify as well, whatever we spent. But I have to double check that because we might have spent that money from the original money that we
Right.
got for CARES Act.
That's
So
what I
that
thought.
might have been already been covered.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'm not familiar with this grant, so I don't
Yeah.
know, like, maybe is there a thing that we had, like, police overtime or ambulance overtime due to them going out for COVID and responding to COVID patients?
Is there
I
any,
mean,
Could it
that
be
would, that would,
recovered?
that would fit,
We
I
could recover some
believe.
of that overtime or whatever?
But we didn't track it like this was a COVID patient with overtime.
Right.
There's no way to
Right.
track that.
Right.
I mean, it would take some digging to try to figure that all out, and this is due June 3rd.
June 3rd?
yeah,
I'm happy to help you do some research. I mean, I'd rather us apply for the grant knowing that it falls under exactly what they want.
I
and
don't
get that
disagree.
money,
I don't
Rather
disagree.
than just like saying bunker gear and then we don't get it.
Right.
So I'm happy to help you do some research if you'd like.
all right, so we'll dig into that and.
Yeah, I
move
really
forward
don't
with-
think we're going to be able to narrow it down with COVID patients and who we went
Well, yeah, no, I
overtime.
agree with
think
that.
that's totally
Right.
not going to, I just can't imagine how to do that. So
Yeah.
Ambulance, police, I mean, he's asking for radios, maybe he, get more radios too. I'm sure radios might cover it too, emergency radios.
I can use radios, he said.
Can
Okay.
I clarify something, just as a fire officer? for your comment,
Yep.
if you were to go into a house where there's a COVID patient with bunker gear on, you now need to disinfect that gear. So that, I think that will definitely work, because now you have, because there's a little lapse in the gear certifications, now you have a second pair of gear to be able to put back on while your other one's getting deconned.
Yeah, I mean, so,
If you look at it in that aspect, yeah, I think that the bunker gear will definitely fall under that. It's not just house fires, it's any calls that you wear to go into a COVID patient.
I hear you.
house.
No, I hear you. I would think that disinfecting, that time to disinfect and the manpower to disinfect that. But again, I have not read the grant. I would love to help you look into that.
I think the bottom line is you're going to apply and we're going
And we're
after
gonna get
whatever we
some
can.
money.
We're going to apply, and I want to
We're
gonna
try
try.
to put everything at it,
Yeah.
so we'll see.
Did you have anything else? There was one other thing on here, I just don't want to, it's just set a work session for the ambulance.
Oh, yes, we.
Was that your other thing?
Yes.
Okay.
I had given you guys packets, those
Yes.
blue packets a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
If you guys could study up on them, and then let me know when you want to have a conversation and a presentation, I'll get with Felicia and the chief.
Well, we have ARPA now on the 8th. We're going to take the 1st off. How does the 15th look?
I don't have any, I'm not scheduled out that far, so it's open.
Why don't we consider the 15th for a work session?
And that'll be
believe-
5:30.
I believe we were supposed to have a work session on the social media policy. Or do we just want to have a discussion on that, represent it, and then go from there? Okay.
Yes.
I'll add it to my list.
Yes. All
We're
right.
gonna have it on the 15th
15th,
at 6 o'clock.
I think we need 5:30.
5:30,
It's going to be a discussion.
because it's going to be a discussion, yeah. We want to have time to, because.
There's a lot of information.
Yeah, we might have a lot of questions. I wouldn't anticipate decision-making on that day, just a lot of understanding.
Yep.
5:30 okay for you, Teresa? I know that's a bit tight sometimes, okay. Carrie, that was everything, I think, for you?
Yes.
Okay. Rick, anything? All right.
I did have one more thing, I'm sorry. The
Yep.
VFW will be having a Memorial Day celebration out at the monument on Memorial Day at 11 a.m.
Memorial Day, Monday, the 30th?
30th.
30th at 11
At
a.m.
11 a.m.
at the town monument. All are welcome to attend.
Right here on Main Street.
Yep.
Okay. Did you have anything else? No. Okay. Public comment?
We already had public comments, didn't we?
No.
That was for the hearing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we had a public hearing.
Good evening, Mike Hoop. Good evening, Board. Madam Chairman, I address my first comment to Natalie.
Yes.
Regarding your concerns about the liability of Jeremy, there are significant clawbacks in the RSA which would apply to the stakeholder, which is Jeremy. Okay? The application was sent up to the LCHIP Commission with a letter from all of the members of the Historic District Commission and was vetted by town council at the time. So there is no impropriety here because of the perceived public versus private construct within the agreement to fix the steeple itself where the town clock is stored. It was originally in the original meeting house, but that burned down, which was at the end of the parking lot down there. The new building went into play in 1914, and it wasn't immediately put in. We had 4 dummy clock faces up there. Having said that, I think the board should take into consideration the fact that we still have leaks up there, okay? This has been an ongoing battle. I have to go up there about 3 times a week. It's not an unsubstantial climb. And when you find snow underneath the clock, you know, that seems to be a problem because the surface rust is starting to accumulate. I do my best to keep it clean. I'll be taking it down again this year for a cleaning. But the copper that was installed wasn't completely flashed underneath the clapboards. And every time it rains, given the prevailing winds coming out of the west, the front clock face really takes it. I mean, the water comes right through the clapboards. I mean, if you look underneath the clock face, the west clock face, which is the main, you'll actually see water pouring into the clapboards. And the hatch, sometimes you go up in the hatch and you'll take a complete bath. The water will just pour on you. I photographed it quite a bit. Kerry has all of the photographs of record. So I think we need to hold the contractor's feet to the fire here. It has nothing to do with Jeremy. He didn't hire him. It was the select board that hired him on the recommendation of the architect. So maybe we should go back to the architect and say, hey, what's up? Because it's getting old, and the clock is suffering. The surface rust up there, the high humidity, from the fact that it's a non-temperature compensated or humidity compensated pendulum, it means that to keep it on course is about 3 or 4 times a week up there. And each time I go up, there's a little more surface rust on the pinions that has to be cleaned off. So it is pretty damp up there. And aside from that, the clock face that he did put in is undersized, it's inappropriate. I recommended and I sent to him, and Kerry has this information also, a manufacturer in Jersey who specializes in 1/4 inch thick, 3/8 inch thick Lexan, and will cut it to the exact diameter with the center hole that you need to put the motion works in play. And they will truck it, they will send it via truck here, and it can be installed. I think it's $290, and there should be enough money left in it. But just to go out and get a piece of plexiglass at Hampshire Lumber, cut it in a circle, not even use a protractor. I mean, the minutes are 6 degrees apart, but this clock looks like, okay, so, I mean, I've seen better looking Mickey Mouse clocks. And basically, it was clear plexiglass, and this is the Richmond roadside, the back of the church. If you're coming in from Richmond and you look at it at night, it's a blinding light. If you look at it in the day, it's charcoal gray. You can't even make out the markings. What he did is he took an orbital sander to the back of the plastic to basically scun it up so that you couldn't see right through it. But it's totally inappropriate. All of the other clock faces are Lexan, and they're at least 1/4 inch thick. And I think it shouldn't be installed and signed off on with a crack in the Lexan, because it was defective when he put it in, and I brought this up almost 2 years ago. So I think we really need to hold his feet to the fire. Just my opinion, I have to deal with it, so.
So one thing that we can do is, or we could do is, we could file a claim with our insurance company.
Yeah.
You know, put in a property damage claim, because we do have property that's being damaged by weather and could be the responsibility of another party. So that could be one way to address the contractor issue and identify if there is a responsible party for fixing that, and if not, if it falls under our insurance.
Okay.
I know there's money in the, I think it's a capital.
There is money in the capital
Right,
reserve.
so, you know, it might be a matter of the insurance comes out and assesses it and says, yes, somebody else is responsible, so we're going to subrogate against that contractor and recover whatever, you know, cost it is to fix this, and it might be, you know, it's not worth your deductible, and so here's your
Right.
fix, and here are some other options, and we're going to dip into the fund. But that would be one way to at least take some action against the potential faulty
Just so you know, I have reached out multiple times,
to our insurance.
not to insurance.
No,
I didn't
no,
go
to the-
down that,
To the
to the
contractor.
Yeah,
contractor.
go,
Did we
yeah,
have
that's.
a workmanship
yeah, take-
warranty?
Well, I'm sorry?
Did we have a workmanship warranty?
I'm sure, yes.
Oh,
Scully
so then
Scully
that's
Engineer.
outside, so then that should be outside of insurance at this point.
That's why I never went down that road of insurance.
right.
But I was,
But because we haven't gotten any response, our two options are, one, put it in legal's hands and have them pursue it, because they're not responding to us, you know,
gonna
in a.
cost more money than
which
us
would-
just going to
Right,
insurance.
versus filing a claim, and, because if the insurance, you know, if the adjuster says this isn't really a claim that would fall under your policy, then, no harm, no foul. It's already a service that we pay for. We pay for insurance. We pay for the claims process. And if anything else, and they pursue it, and there's a third party responsible, it still falls under that policy. It's no money incurred to us, and it's potentially recovery from the party that,
Right.
You're the insurance lady, I'm not gonna, that's all you. I'm just gonna suggest that the select board actually write a letter and we all sign it to the contractor stating in strong words that we would like you to honor your workmanship warranty, you have X amount of days to oblige to this, and/or we will seek alternative methods of recovery.
let's do it all up.
Yep.
Okay.
And that would include the replacement of the clock face, which
Yeah, I
was
think it
installed.
sounds like the first hurdle is just getting somebody to respond to us about the concerns, right? I mean, that's pretty much, so yes.
And then we can list them all off.
And then we can list them.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mike.
Quick, any additional public comment?
Do you want me to write that letter?
I'm sorry,
Do you want me to write that letter?
you don't have to. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kelly.
I'll figure it out, sorry.
So I just, on the heels of, Lindsay, what you had mentioned earlier about the live streaming and stuff, I think it's good to say every now and then that, I think it's a beautiful opportunity for the residents of Winchester to be able to come to select board meetings and to be able to hear what's happening in our town, how our town is being run, and ask questions and share their opinions. And, it's always disappointing that, how little that people actually do come to these meetings. So I guess I just wanted to say it out loud, and since it is being live streamed and other people can at least hear this, it's not helpful to say all these things out, rumors and just, be complaining about things or whatever outside of this, but, come and ask questions and share what you have to say and hear what's happening. Like, I think it's important, and so I just thought it would be a good time to say that. That's all. Thank you.
Thank
It's
you.
easier for them to sit on their couch and run their mouth than it is to come in here.
Thank you, Kelly. No other public comment? Nothing else from the board? We do have non-public. Lost my, is there a motion to enter into non-public? And in the folder, we had A.
A.
Was there a E? Or just a C?
No E. A and C?
Yep. Motion to enter into.
Oh, no, sorry, there's a B.
Alphabet soup. Is there a motion to enter into non-public under RSA 91?
I'll make a motion to
And a
enter in
second.
non-public.
And I will second. Roll call vote. Teresa?
Aye.
Natalie?
Aye.
Herb?
Aye.
James?
Aye.
Lindsay? Aye. We are now in non-public. I do not anticipate any regular business. Yes.
Thank you.
Can I get who's,
I made the motion. And I seconded. Yep.